Ancient Greece was defined by its limits. Between the rugged mountain ranges and the thin, stony soil, only about a quarter of the mainland was actually capable of supporting crops. This chart tracks the crisis that followed. As the population grew in the 8th century BCE, the available farmland stayed the same, leaving the city-states unable to support their own citizens. The scarcity was so constant that the poet Homer famously remarked that Greece was married to poverty. With the threat of mass starvation looming, the Greeks looked toward the sea to find the resources their own soil couldn't provide. The Greeks practiced Apoikia, or the away home. This was an autonomous migration where groups of citizens left to establish entirely independent settlements in foreign lands. In 733 BCE, a Corinthian expedition navigated west, landing on the fertile eastern coast of Sicily to establish the city of Syracuse. These settlers were often the younger or superfluous members of Corinthian society. They left as self-contained units, carrying with them the specific laws, religious customs, and cultural blueprints of their home city. Unlike many later imperial models, Syracuse was fully autonomous from its inception. It functioned as a self-sustaining replica of Greek civilization, flourishing within a single generation. Syracuse and the neighboring settlements of southern Italy, known collectively as Magna Graecia, soon accumulated enough wealth to eclipse the prosperity of the Greek motherland. To maintain a unified identity hundreds of miles from Greece, these citizens invested their wealth into monumental architecture. Stone became the primary tool for proving they were still undeniably Greek. They used a trebated or post-and-lintel structure. It relied on vertical stone columns to support a series of horizontal beams called the entablature, which in turn carried the weight of the roof. This architectural language was strictly categorized. The Doric order used a simple, cushion-like capital at the top of the column, while the Ionic order used scrolled spirals called volutes, inspired by forms found in nature, like the nautilus shell. By following these precise rules, the settlers created a physical anchor in the landscape, ensuring their distant cities looked and felt like the world they had left behind. The Greeks believed the universe was governed by order and symmetry. They applied this logic to their city planning, putting mankind at the center of a precisely calculated world. They even accounted for the flaws in human vision. Because a long, straight column looks slightly thin in the middle from a distance, architects used entasis, adding a slight convex swelling to the column so it would appear perfectly straight to the eye. This intellectual climate made Magna Graecia a magnet for thinkers like Pythagoras, who brought his work in mathematics and harmonics to the region in the late 6th century. However, this high concentration of wealth and cultural prestige eventually attracted the attention of regional rivals, particularly the rising empire of Carthage to the south. The visibility of Syracusan success made conflict with these neighbors certain. To survive, the city began to prioritize defense and military engineering over civilian art. By the 4th century BCE, Carthaginian forces were contesting Greek control of Sicily. Syracuse needed a new form of leadership to survive the coming wars. A clerk named Dionysius capitalized on the panic. He staged an attack on his own life, using the fabricated threat to convince the city council to grant him a private army. With 600 mercenaries at his back, Dionysius forcibly ended the democratic government of Syracuse and installed himself as a tyrant. The original model of the independent, self-governing citizen settler was over. To protect its vast resources, Syracuse had become a military state under the control of a single autocrat. Dionysius shifted the city's building programs away from temples and toward massive military engineering. These trenches were part of a sophisticated defensive network designed to repel siege guns. He enclosed the city in a 27-kilometer circuit of stone walls and constructed the Euryalus fortress, one of the most complex military structures of the ancient world. The sheer effort required was massive. Construction of these fortifications meant quarrying and moving roughly 300 tons of stone every day for 5 years. These defenses protected the city for decades, but Syracuse eventually fell to the Roman Republic. Rome had the manpower that even the strongest walls couldn't outlast. But the conquest was not entirely one-sided. Rome adopted the architectural language of Syracuse. incorporating its columns, proportions, and mathematical order into their own capital. By absorbing the Greek blueprint, Rome ensured that the style of the colonies would become the standard for Mediterranean architecture for centuries to come.